Hi, this is Elizabeth Lee for Module 6, Unit 1, Activity 1, Unpacking Standards. Today I'm going to be unpacking two standards. They're going to be, one is from the California English Language Arts Content Standards for California Public Schools from the California Department of Education, and the other one is going to be the AP English Literature and Composition standard. So I'm going to include for each explanation the standard, where the standard came from, the big ideas in the standard, the skills the students should develop and work towards, and one or two projects or activities I can use, and assessment, how I will assess and monitor progress. So each of these standards will be discussed thoroughly. The first one is the English Language Arts Content Standards for California Public Schools, kindergarten through grade 12. Now, I teach English literature and composition at the Korean International School in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and I teach grade 11. And so I chose for grades 11 and 12 the literary response and analysis standard 3.4. It states, analyze ways in which the selected writer uses imagery, personification, figures of speech, and sounds to evoke readers' emotions. So the goal here is for students to read and respond to historically or culturally significant works of literature that reflect and enhance their studies of history and social science. They include in-depth analysis of recurrent themes in readings such as Animal Farm, 1984, and Their Eyes Were Watching God. Now, note, normally these would be reserved for 8th, 9th, or 10th graders in U.S. schools, but my students are ELL learners, so I have adjusted the difficulty of reading to match their learning style. The other big ideas, kind of the overarching big ideas and objectives, is that the students will evaluate and analyze theme in the text, articulate trends they find in the writer's use of the language, apply knowledge of literary themes to explain connections between specific textual examples and larger themes, and employ visual, musical, spatial, verbal intelligences in communicating their interpretation of literary text. This will be the creative writing assignment or the alternative project. So again, analyze 3.4 states, analyze ways in which the selector writers use their imagery, personification, figures of speech, and sounds to evoke emotions. Here, the content is imagery, personification, figures of speech, and sounds. The skill is analyze in the context of evoking readers' emotions. And the breakdown is students will analyze ways that writers use imagery to evoke readers' emotions. Analyze ways that writers use personification, analyze ways that writers use figures of speech, and analyze ways that writers use sounds for evoking emotion. That my task will be that students will write their own poems, short stories, or plays using imagery, personification, figures of speech, etc., to evoke emotion. They will present their final product, their final work, explaining each literary device component and how the chosen method used enhances or appeals to the audience's emotions. Formatively, I will formatively assess each student before each class and after class using Kahoot quizzes, Google Forms, 1-minute papers, etc. I will progress monitors in two parts. Peer review. Students will peer review their work with another, giving three positive feedback and 3 suggestions on how to improve. And part 2 will be that I will be reading their rough drafts of their creative writing assignment to see if they have understood the devices clearly. Modifying for ELL and SNL, I will give more time. Students will have the availability of submitting in different forms, oral, through drawings. They can use graphic organizers, assistive technologies such as translation devices and voice recorders. And as long as 4 literary devices are explained using examples, that should be okay. They don't need to write long, explanatory poems or anything like that. An alternative project that I've come up with is that students will, through literary analysis, students will create a novel theme park they will design a theme park based on the literary elements of the selected novel, and various aspects of the park, from the layout to the rides to the characters, should be inspired by the novel. Here are some considering questions that students should follow. And the project should include a theme map, characters, shows, and merchandise. The second standard is AP English Literature and Composition. Big ideas are character, setting, structure, narration, literary augmentations. These are the big things, the objectives that the students will need to learn. I'm going to, I did skill category 5 and skill category 6, but I'm going to focus more on skill category 6 because that is in line with the literary elements that we discussed in the first standard. So the content here would be, I'm sorry, I'm missing here, personification. Personification is the content. The skill would be to explain the function, identify and explain the function of in context is in a literary text. I'm sorry, I can't say that. And I had broken down all the other skills. However, because we're just going to discuss personification, I'll go ahead and move to that. Skill category 6C is identify and explain the function and of personification. I broke it down to identify personification, and 1B, explain the function of personification. Now, the task here is, because the skill categories are so comprehensive, I'm only going to outline an activity for skill category 6. Here, the students will analyze Langston Hughes' theme for English B, focusing their attention on the connotation portion of the strategy. Students should examine the following lines. I feel and see and hear Harlem. I hear you, hear me. We too, you, me, talk on this page. Ask them to engage in close reading of these lines to understand how personification of Harlem and New York in these lines convey meaning. So in groups, students will put together illustrations using any creative medium that they want to. So it could be a video, PPT, drawings, short films that they would use to depict non-human actions. Now, same way, I will formatively assess this assignment using Kahoot, Google Forms, as entry and exit tickets to check for understanding. But as far as the project goes, I will engage in a discussion. We'll have the students engage in the discussion of the interpretation of the ideas, and I will walk around and listen and facilitate discussions if they're not progressing. Part 2, the students will then present their final product proposal, not product, the proposal for approval prior to beginning any work on the illustration. So this will ensure that students understand the concept of personification before they finalize their product. And finally, yes, more time for modifying for ELL and SNL learners, more time will be given. Different modes of submission will be allowed. Graphic organizers may be used, assistive technology, but also, since this assignment is inherently scaffolded for ELL and SNL learners because it's illustrative, I don't anticipate much modifications to be had, but here they are anyways. Given that AP is so comprehensive, and given that my second semester 11th grade English Literature and Composition course will only meet 3 times a week for 45 minutes at a time, I am short on time and therefore do not have the time to cover everything in the AP standards. So I think I will choose the English Language Arts Content Standards for California Public Schools for grade 11. All right, thank you so much for listening. Bye.